Hello YouTubers and preppers, I'm Evita Cooks and Preps, and I'm back with another prepper idea. I'm always looking for new ways to preserve food, and the herbs are no exception. And today I will show you another way to keep one of my favorite herbs fresh for at least 1 month. That's right, we're talking about one of the two cousins, cilantro, and if you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that this is one of my favorite herbs. I grow my own cilantro. This one right here, we picked it early this morning, and check it out, it looks lovely. It's nice and fresh. However, because I use cilantro so often, I'm always looking for different ways to preserve it and keep it in their natural state longer. So that is why today I'm going to be showing you a different method to preserve it other than processing the cilantro. I already have a video on how to preserve the cilantro and the culantro in a paste form. However, cilantro is a very delicate herb, and since I use so much of it, I'm always trying to figure out new ways to keep it in its natural form. And using this method today, you can preserve it longer in its natural state. So all we need for this process is the cilantro, the fresh cilantro, of course. We're also going to need some flour sack towels that I have here. These are 100% cotton. That's very important, and just keep in mind that because I'm going to be using these towels to preserve the cilantro, at the end of the process, it's going to get stained. So make sure that whatever you use is something that you're not planning to use later. We're also going to need some paper towel and the zip bags of your choice. You're going to be surprised just how good this method works for you. And if you try this method at home, please leave us a comment. I always like to hear from you. And also, if you use different methods, go ahead and share that with us. I'm always looking for new ideas and different ways to preserve our food. So let's get started very quickly. And before we get started, one of the reasons why I decided to share this video with you is because I have a pack of the cilantro here that I preserved about 3 weeks ago, and I figured it'd be a good idea to show you what it looks like. So let me show you. It's not a lot of cilantro, but I figured I will show you anyway what it looks like. And what you see here, let me move this over to that side, is the little bit of cilantro that I have left over. And I want to show you very quickly what it looks like after 3 weeks. And even though it's been 3 weeks already, you can see that it's still fairly green. Of course, it starts to get a little bit wilted after a while. This one I took out from the refrigerator a few minutes ago, and I decided that it would be a good idea to show you guys what it looks like since I have one available. You know that cilantro is my favorite herbs, and I use it in a lot of my recipes. So here we go. Check it out. This one right here is still fairly green. Of course, it's not perfect. Obviously, it's going to lose a little bit of its color, and after the 3rd or 4th week mark, it starts to get a little bit wilted, but it's still good. As you can see, this one I'm going to be using today for dinner, but I figure I'll show you how I like to keep them fresh longer. This process would also work for the culantro, which is my other favorite herb. I also do this with the parsley. I've tried with the basil, and the basil is a little tricky because basil is very sensitive to the cold, but that doesn't mean it won't work. I just don't think that it will work in big quantities. But you can certainly try this method and see what works for you. Let me put this aside so that I can show you how this process is done. And here we have the cilantro. Some of the cilantro that I have here still has the root because I wanted to show you what it looks like and just how fresh the cilantro is. So check it out. This was pretty good. I am going to wash it and rinse it, but before I do that, I just want to mention to you that for this process, it's a very good idea that we remove any of the leaves that don't look too hot. Like this one's turning a little bit yellow. You don't want to use that. Look at that. It looks so amazing. It smells so good in here. My goodness, guys, if you've never tried cooking with cilantro, try incorporating the cilantro in some of your meals, and you'll be surprised the flavor that it adds to your foods. But basically what I'm going to do, and this is one of the reasons why I left this one intact, is we're going to be stripping or cutting this piece off. I usually do it with my hands. Now, you can rinse this root thoroughly and use these pieces in stock, which is exactly what I do. So I set them aside and basically use them for my stock. If the leaves and the stems are tasty, you can just imagine how tasty the roots of the cilantro are. So I'm going to set that aside. and pick through the cilantro, rinse it, and once I'm done rinsing the cilantro, I'll be back. Okay, I've already rinsed the cilantro twice just to make sure we remove any of the sand from the cilantro. It's very sandy here in Florida, so usually you end up with very sandy herbs and vegetables. So you gotta make sure that it's nice and clean. To extend the life of the cilantro, this is entirely optional, but I like to add, depending on the amount that we'll be making, I like to add a little bit of baking soda. The baking soda acts as a preservative, and because I have there roughly about 3 bunches of cilantro, I'm going to be adding 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Like I said, that's entirely optional. Baking soda is also a cleaning agent. It's going to be acting as a cleaner and also as a sterilizer for the cilantro. And I'm going to keep the cilantro submerged this way for at least 15 minutes. Don't leave it longer than that because the cilantro will certainly start to wilt. And when you find some of these leaves that did not make the cut, just make sure you remove them. I thought I removed all of them, but apparently I didn't. This cilantro right here, I'm actually pretty excited this year with the cilantro, but let me see if I can just show you. Check out that stem. It is absolutely amazing. I almost forgot to show you what the towel looks like after it's been used for this process, so that's why I said just make sure you use a towel that you don't need for anything else, especially these white towels or these white sacks. These are very inexpensive. I believe I bought those in Walmart for under $4, so you can definitely check that out in Walmart. And right here I have some paper towel that I'm going to be laying on the work surface, and here's the cilantro. And also I almost forgot to mention that the water that I use to rinse the cilantro, I use it to water my plants in the garden. Why not, right? It's all about prepping and making good use of the things that we have, and rather than wasting that water, why not repurpose it in the garden? I'm going to be working with smaller batches because I want to show you how simple this is, and also give you a few ideas of how to prepare and process the cilantro. The first thing I like to do is run my fingers through it just to make sure I didn't miss any of those leaves that didn't make the cut. And also just to point out that when you buy cilantro, you should look for cilantro that is very leafy. Try to stay away from this kind of cilantro. In my case, this is the cilantro that came from my garden, so I'm using what I have. But if you can find cilantro that is very leafy, that's always best. However, just keep in mind that the stems of the cilantro are tastier and more flavorful than the actual leaves. So when you consider using cilantro for cooking, it really depends on what you're going to be using it for. For example, when I make rice, I use stems and leaves. If you have a very finicky eater in the house and you want to remove the cilantro before they know it's in there, you can leave it whole and then remove it right before serving. Other than that, you can pretty much use every part of the cilantro, including the roots, which are loaded and packed with flavor and are great to make stock. Okay, so in any event, if you decide that you're just going to be using the leaves, you basically just cut the pieces of stems and set them aside and save them for stocks later on. I just pretty much like to cut most of them, mostly because I make my own stocks and can them, and I like to use these in the stocks most of the time. This looks good. Here's another big one. Okay. All right. I'm not going to bore you with this process because it's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm going to go through all of it, and once I'm done, I'll be back for the next step. Okay, so I picked through all the cilantro and cut off the excess stem. I want to pat it dry as best as possible. I have some paper towel on the bottom, and I'm going to grab another piece of paper towel and lay it over the top. The enemy of most herbs is either cold and excess moisture. So for this process, what you're trying to do is preserve and also protect the leaves in single layers, as you can see here. So what I'm doing here is patting it lightly to remove the excess moisture. Once you've done that and you're sure that most of the water has been removed, we can open it up like so and just verify it. And if you need to pat it longer, you're just gonna continue doing that until, for the most part, the cilantro feels pretty dry. As you can see, I'm doing this very gently. You don't want to crush the leaves because they will bruise. Like I said, cilantro is a very delicate herb and you don't want to ruin it. Now, cilantro in my house doesn't last very long, but sometimes I'm lucky and my local supermarket offers the cilantro 4 bunches for $1. These days those sales are very difficult to find. When I get that lucky, I usually buy big quantities and then I make big batches of my sofrito criollo because cilantro is one of the primary ingredients of the sofrito criollo. Okay, right now the cilantro is nice and dry. I'm gonna grab this towel, lay it over the top so I can roll it one more time, gently. Okay, I'm gonna set it aside because now with the towel, this is a new one that I have here. These towels or these sacks are very big. I use them a lot. They're usually used for baking or, you know, to cover dough. They're very helpful and practical for these little projects. I know you can't see it all that well because the white is stealing a little bit of the lighting from the camera. Hopefully now it adjusts a little bit better, but let's see. Okay, so you see how I laid the cilantro on top of a cloth with the piece of paper towel that was in the bottom. You want to leave that unless it's soaked. If it's soaked, then you want to just replace it. You want to try and keep it as dry as possible. So as you can see, I am trying to spread the cilantro thinly as well. And it seems tedious and it seems like too much work, but it's really because I'm trying to show you every step. You can do this in less than 5 minutes. Alrighty, so I have another piece of towel and you want to cut your pieces of towel big enough for the amount of cilantro that you're doing. Okay, so I laid the paper towel over the top and I'm going to fold the cloth over the cilantro like so. Hopefully you can see that there. Okay, fold it once again, and you want to fold it so that it fits in the bag that you'll be using. I like to use the smaller bags, but you can use a gallon size bag too, which is a little bit bigger. But I find that those are the perfect size for me. They take less space in the refrigerator. So you're just going to continue folding it, and then finally I'm going to fold it one more time just so that I can bring it to size to fit on this bag. Okay. Now I can knock a few of these bags in just a few minutes. The cilantro is well protected with the paper towel and the cloth that we used. Okay, so now once you get it in that bag, the rest is very simple. I'm going to start sealing the bag all the way to the middle. Okay, so both ends, zip them to the middle. It's so much harder to do it when you're recording. Trust me, this is not that difficult. Okay, so now very carefully I am pressing down on the herbs and removing some of that air. Okay, just like that. Okay, you don't have to remove all of it. I have tried vacuum sealing fresh cilantro and trust me, it doesn't work. It actually rotted faster than using this method, and like I said, you can keep the cilantro fresh this way for at least 1 month. Okay, and there you go. Notice it's almost flat, and just like that you have fresh cilantro that you preserved in its natural form, and it's gonna stay fresh and good this way for at least 1 month. For more quick and easy prepper ideas like this one, consider subscribing to the channel, give us a thumbs up and comment for the YouTube algorithm, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my videos. And until next time, I'm Evita, cooks and preps. Bon appetit! You really have to try it.